This ordinary nobody is the main character of this manhwa, and the only skill he has looks to be the useless skill of crafting chairs and tables. What? Ever since he got teleported through a dimensional glitch, all he has accomplished is unintentionally pissing off the god of this world, this deadly killer rabbit. Our main character Da-woon is lying on the ground all wounded and exhausted. He is confused and don't know what is going on. Then he remembers he is in a dungeon and his friends are calling for him, and we can see a rabbit laughing happily. The archer tells Da-woon's friend Seung-woo that there's no time to lose. It's right behind them. Seung-woo, feeling sorry, said, "Sorry, Da-woon." Da-woon is critically injured and thinks he will die. He pulls the rod out from his stomach, but the pain is unbearable and he is bleeding buckets. Because of the blood loss, his senses have become dull. He thinks that the things were surreal from the time he was summoned here. Scene shifts. Da-woon is walking in the streets while talking in a phone. Suddenly blue aura appears around him, and in a flash he was in an unknown location. Da-woon was confused, and so did all the person there. Da-woon thinks where he is. Suddenly from the crowd one guy roared, "I am getting late for an interview." From the back a voice came, "I am the game assistant." Everyone was shocked and Da-woon thought he is a doll. The rabbit said he will explain the game rules. But the interview guy caught the rabbit and said, "Call a taxi." The rabbit in a spooky way said, "The game introduction comes first. You all will learn through your deaths." That gave Da-woon chills. The rabbit started to scream, "The dungeon game, the dungeon game." And to the guy he said, "I will explain an important rule for you. Be nice to the assistant," and chopped his head off and said, "If you value your life." Da-woon was stunned. On the other hand, the rabbit jumped and said, "He's dead and I will kill all of you if you ignore the rules." Everyone started to scream. The rabbit with a serial killer face said, "Shall we start the game?" Da-woon realized this isn't a dream at all. Da-woon seized the guy's head and started shivering with fear and shock. The rabbit said, "This place is dangerous. As an assistant, I should give you the basic equipment." A small dagger appeared in front of Da-woon and in front of others. Then the rabbit, while flying, said, "You are free to speculate all you want, but the game will begin soon." And again, with a spooky eye, he said, "But let's start with a survival test." The dungeon game began, or the hell. Monsters would attack them from the dark at any moment, and many of them got killed by the traps. As the time passed, people died one by one. They even had to kill each other in order to survive. Scene shifts. Old bastard kicks Da-woon in the back and took a piece of meat. Da-woon tried to stop him, but he told him to be shut and started to scold Da-woon, saying that we fight or risk our lives and protect trash like you. When I say you something, just do it. Then we were told that skills are another type of weapon given to participants. They give participants supernatural powers and strengths. But in Da-woon's case, it's not like others. His stats are low and his skill detoxifies meat, useless in battle. And he started scolding Da-woon again, saying he would be dead till now, and you should give your food without hesitation. Seung-woo arrives and says, "What are you doing?" The old bastard was shocked and started to make excuses, and Seung-woo made his mouth shut, and with a cold stare, he said, "Wait till tomorrow's food distribution." The old bastard, pissed, gets out of the place. Seung-woo then asks Da-woon that he is okay or not, and also encouraged Da-woon by saying, "Ignore the old bastard. He is saying these things because he's on the edge, everyone is." Seung-woo then told Da-woon to get some sleep because the game assistant said they will reach the end point tomorrow. Da-woon thinks he also wants to help them and takes his dagger out and started to train. Scene shifts. We see a big boulder is rolling towards the participants. The rabbit from the sky told them to see on their sides too, and there is a lot of traps here. Seung-woo, with a stunned face, sees on his side and a blast happened. Two participants were killed by the bomb. Seung-woo screamed and told Da-woon not to fall behind, and if he stops he will die. Da-woon, panting, thinks he is at his limit, but still, he tries to catch up with them. His left pressed a button on the floor and activated a trap. Da-woon, stunned, fell in the trap. Seung-woo sees back, afraid that he will lose his friend, and he screamed Da-woon. Seung-woo stopped to see Da-woon And then the rabbit from the sky said trap number 7 is amazing, and there's trap at the bottom also. Sung-woo with anger said, you should have told us earlier. Then, with a creepy face, the rabbit said that there's a 0% survival rate in that trap. The archer warned Sung-woo that the boulder is coming and there is no time to wait. Sung-woo, feeling sorry, uses his brain and tells everyone to run and watch where they step. Then the rabbit from the air started to tease Sung-woo, saying, I thought he was your friend through thick and thin. Sung-woo, just as I expected, you are a cool-headed guy. Sung-woo was saying sorry to Da-woon in his mind. Da-woon, sitting inside the pit and brutally injured, can still hear the voice of the game assistant. He thinks, it's so noisy outside, and I can hear the voices, which means I am not dead. The game assistant announces that there is also a final boss. By instinct, Da-woon takes out his dagger, but he knows that he is going to die. Scene shifts. We see Sung-woo fighting with the final boss and was able to land a critical strike. And with the last blow, he defeats the boss. The rabbit hops and praises Sung-woo on defeating the boss. The rabbit then teases them by saying, I didn't expect you weaklings to defeat the boss. Then Sung-woo says to the rabbit, can they go home now? The rabbit with a bland face says, why would you suddenly return home? Then again, with a creepy face, says, keep it up and give the next round your all. Sung-woo in a dilemma asks the rabbit what he is talking about, and tells him that he said if they killed the boss the game would be completed, but the rabbit says, I meant you would clear the first stage and let's go to the next dungeon. Everyone was traumatized that they have just completed the first stage and there are more, and the rabbit teases them again by saying, did you think this was the end? My bad, I didn't tell you earlier. The fact that they have to complete more dungeons, everyone loses the will to live. To cheer them up, the rabbit decides to reward them. He then heals everyone's wounds, and then we see that Sung-woo's hand is also regenerated. Then the rabbit says, are you all happy now? This is the reward to clear a stage, and let's go to the next dungeon. Scene shifts. We see that Dan-woo is also getting healed by the reward. With confusion, he looks towards his wounds and sees that every wound in his body is getting healed. Then he hears the assistant voice again, saying, let's go to the next stage. Knowing that they are going to the next stage, he screams, take me with you, I am alive, but realizes no one can hear him, and thinks about what he is going to do here alone. Suddenly a message pops up on Dongwoo's screen saying the dungeon will reset. Suddenly, he noticed that the rocks and his blood started to float, and when he sees up he noticed the trap was getting closed. Then Da-woon used his brain and figured things out. He said to himself, the traps are being reset for the next round of participants. He picks a stone, clenched it with all his might and threw the stone at the opening of the trap. The stone hit the top, and the trap got activated again. Then Da-woon thought about what he was going to do next, and then he glared at the spikes and thought if he tried to climb and fell, for sure he was going to die. He was just thinking about the ways to escape. Suddenly a voice came from behind saying, what's going on here? When Da-woon turned, he saw he was the assistant, but the rabbit says, why haven't you died? And that he came here when he saw the trap was open. Da-woon told him he was just about to die when he got healed. The rabbit was pissed and said you got healed by the full recovery. Then he says to Da-woon, anyone who falls into this trap immediately dies, why are you alive? Da-woon replied, anyway I am alive, can you take me to my party? Then the rabbit explained it's not that simple. Da-woon got confused a bit. Then the rabbit said to Da-woon to show his stats. In his stats panel his name was glitched. Then the rabbit said, the law of the dungeon had declared you dead. Da-woon in confusion said, so that means I can go back to my home. The rabbit told Da-woon, that means you will have to die here. Da-woon in dilemma says to the rabbit, how did you come to that conclusion? The rabbit replied, mistakes like these should be buried quietly, and he suggested Da-woon, just stay here and starve to death and no one would notice. Da-woon replied, that's not fair. But roughly the rabbit said, you are just a crafter who did odd jobs hiding behind Sung-woo, and you do not have the skills to get out from here. Besides, the traps aren't the only thing that was reset. If you even manage to climb up, it's going to be hell out there. Just die here peacefully and don't disturb the other participants. Bye. Da-woon tried to stop him, but he ignored Da-woon and got out of there. Da-woon with passionate eyes, while remembering the past, said, "You want me to die here quietly? Because I am a crafter. Everyone says the same thing. Don't make me laugh." And then Da-woon opened his inventory that was filled with food and said, "Don't look down on me, because I am a crafter," and took a piece of meat from his inventory and said, "I will survive here at any cost." Da-woon looks satisfied and happy, and thinks this is heaven compared to when he was outside and had to do night duty. While staring at the hole, Da-woon realizes he can't stay in the hole forever no matter how safe it is. He started to apply pressure on his brain for some ideas, but he realizes even if he got out there would be monsters wandering around and the ceiling is high, covered with solid rocks. Then he stood up and started to roam around. He noticed some pile of rocks between the spikes and thought that he could dig a tunnel. First he would dig down and gradually dig around the rock wall. He realizes his plan is too reckless, but there's nothing else he could do and thought anywhere else would be safer than this place. Scene shifts. We see that Da-woon has already dug a big space and thinks that he has messed up his head because he is having fun and feeling proud just by digging dirt. His hands got swollen from digging the dirt and his hands are hurting, but he has no other choice but to keep at it to survive. Suddenly, a clod of dirt falls on Da-woon's head. He realizes the dirt that he had loosened through digging was the problem, because the dirt is loosened, it is falling, and at this rate, he could be buried alive. Then Da-woon uses his brain and gets an idea that what if he could put the dirt in his inventory. He opens the inventory and tries to put the dirt in it, and it worked. Da-woon realizes how useful the inventory panel can be, and he thanked the inventory panel and says now he could work faster without the fear of being buried. He opened his inventory panel on the side and started to put the dirt that he was digging. He was also getting motivated by seeing his progress and was enjoying doing it. Suddenly a golden light appeared in front of Da-woon. A golden display appeared on which was written "A new achievement unlocked." Da-woon was surprised at first glance. Suddenly the loading screen appeared, and Da-woon started to feel amazing as if he could rip apart anything. The achievement finally loaded and it was dirt manipulation. Da-woon was greatly disappointed because his second skill was also useless in battle, and he thought he was never meant to be a fighter. He realized he had gotten this skill because he was digging dirt until his hands were this swollen. He started to think about Seungwoo and how impressive his skills were. Da-woon doubted he would ever acquire skills like Seungwoo's, and realized how he was just a nuisance for Seungwoo, and he even lost his arm because of him. He thinks that Seungwoo is alive or not, but then contradicts his statement by saying he is not a person who can die this easily. Da-woon decided to test his new skill by concentrating his power on a dirt pile. As he focused, a blue ore appeared, and he formed a dirt ball, but he was confused when he saw the result. Scene shifts. We see the rabbit has come to check if Da-woon has died, but he gets upset because he doesn't see Da-woon's corpse. While seeing the hole in the ground, he thinks there is nothing he can do no matter how much he struggles, and thinks he will eventually die after wasting his energy and goes into the hole to see how much he has dug. The rabbit started to fly into the hole thinking he had dug a quite large amount, and praised Da-woon for his willpower and realized Seungwoo was not the only reason he stayed alive without any skills, but thinks all his efforts are futile, and started to make fun of Da-woon by saying he couldn't have turned into a mole or something, and says he can see his corpse anytime now, but gets depressed because the tunnel was getting wider. But suddenly he sees a torch and is stunned by the high quality details in the tunnel. He sees Da-woon walking happily holding a plate with meat and gets shocked. Da-woon notices the assistant and says hi. Seeing Da-woon in good condition, he gets depressed and stunned, and starts to scream, "Why haven't you died yet?" But in reply, Da-woon just turns his head. The rabbit noticed something and shouted, "Is that a bed? Is that a table? Was there always a place like this underneath the dungeon?" In shock, the rabbit saw the comfort in which Da-woon was living and got frozen there. Da-woon added some water to the mud to create something. Then, with fine precision, he created a mud plate. The rabbit looked confused, trying to figure out what Da-woon was trying to make. Dawoon explained that he was making a plate because he wanted to offer the rabbit some food, as the rabbit was his guest. The rabbit asked if you had settled here, then questioned if you forgot that this is a dungeon and stated that he would not eat that junk. Then the rabbit started to interrogate Dawoon. He says you were the crafter who was looking after the food. But what do you think for how long you can survive with it? Or did you gain a new skill? By looking at Dawoon's face, he realized he had hit the mark and asked him what the skill was. Dawoon tried to avoid eye contact and said in a low voice, "Dirt manipulation." The rabbit burst out laughing and said this explains how you made this stuff. Then, after controlling his laughter, he said you specialize in the most random things. Even your first skill was purification. Anyway, thank you for keeping me entertained. But this all was just a waste of time. He jumped on the floor and said the only thing left is for you to die. Dawoon got tensed and asked the rabbit if he was going to kill him. The rabbit replied, "You are going to die anyway, so why would I even bother to kill you with my own hands?" Suddenly the rabbit said, "Look like it's over." Dawoon was confused by the rabbit words and asked him what he meant by, "It's all over." Suddenly the dungeon started to shake and Dawoon was tensed because he had no idea what was going on. Then the rabbit explained, while he was down here playing with dirt, the new group of participants had cleared the stage 1 and teased Dawoon by saying all the work he did to build this hideout was in vain. Dawoon's eyes went blank thinking that all the work he did was for nothing, and he blamed himself for not remembering that the dungeon gets reset after every group cleared the stage. The realization hits Dawoon very hard that if the dungeon is resetting, the cave is also going to get reset, which means the cave will disappear. He tries to return to the trap before the cave collapses. By seeing Dawoon running for his life, the rabbit laughed happily and admired Dawoon for his willpower. But Dawoon was exhausted after digging the cave and was not able to run. The rabbit tries to break Dawoon's will by saying you're not even close to the entrance. You shouldn't have dug around so much. But Dawoon still tries to get up and run for his life. By seeing Dawoon trying, the rabbit teases Dawoon by saying, "So finally have you given up? Too bad, even though you made it this far," and screamed with laughter saying you ended up digging your own grave. "You should have listened to me when I told you to die quietly. You didn't have to go through all this trouble if you listened to me." But suddenly the rabbit got surprised and stared at the wall of the cave. Dawoon also gets a bit shocked and says, "It stopped." The rabbit with fear and disappointment said, "No way, that's impossible." Then the rabbit screamed in fear, "Is the reset over? But this place looks the same. Damn it, that freaking glitch and his error. Did that also apply to Law of the Dungeon?" Dawoon stands up and asks the rabbit, "Is the reset over?" The rabbit replies in anger saying, "Don't ask me." The rabbit gets confused and annoyed with the situation. Dawoon tries to figure out what's going on and thinks the tunnel is a mess, but it didn't got reset. Is it because I am a glitch? And questioned himself by saying, "Does that mean I won't be affected by the law of the dungeon? But I still received an achievement that means I am a player, but I am not." The rabbit asks Dawoon why he is so deep in thought and tells him not be happy because he is going to die anyway. Next time the dungeon reset, this place might collapse, or worse, a huge monster appear here. Dawoon gave the rabbit an unfazed expression. The rabbit asked Dawoon why he was giving him that look, and started to make assumptions that Dawoon had gotten so scared that his mind went blank. Dawoon with an unbothered face asked the rabbit, "Can't you kill me?" The rabbit got stunned and replied, "What do you mean?" Then Dawoon confronts the rabbit that he had realized that for some reason you couldn't kill me, because if you want me dead, then you could have just cut my head, just as you did with the interview guy. The rabbit replied in anger, "You are a funny one. How did you even come to that conclusion? I just don't want to get my hands dirty." But Dawoon completely ignored him, which made the rabbit more furious, and the rabbit then asked Dawoon, "Do you really want me to cut your head off?" Dawoon with a smug in his face realized that he was right and the rabbit really couldn't kill him. For some reason, the rabbit got exhausted from the screaming and started panting. When he sees Dawoon completely ignoring him, he realized he had been screwed. The reality is, according to the rule, the rabbit has the right to kill people only once per round of participants. Since he used the power in the beginning for regulation purposes, he couldn't hurt Dawoon personally. The rabbit realizes that if Dawoon makes it outside, the higher-ups are going to know about his mistake and he will be dead meat. Dawoon notices something on the wall. It is a crack. Suddenly the crack opens and a strong current of water starts to flow from it. The rabbit got super happy seeing the water current and said, "You thought you could survive. Guess what? The stream burst open. Die, you glitch bastard." Dawoon, half drowned, realized the reset had weakened the foundation of the earth. Due to the strong current, Dawoon is unable to swim and starts to drown. He is completely submerged in the water, and his chances of survival are very slim. We see Dawoon struggling to get out of the stream. He realizes he can use the dirt from his inventory. With a blue glow, he opens his inventory and screams, "I will seal you with my dirt clods," and starts to throw the dirt clods from the inventory towards the start of the stream. The rabbit looked annoyed seeing Dawoon trying to survive and asked him if he was serious about blocking the stream with dirt. Dawoon replied, "Yes, I am." The rabbit thought all the consecutive danger must have made him crazy and told him there's no good in throwing eggs at a rock. Dawoon said it's true that an egg by itself is weak, and then he asked the rabbit if he had this many. The rabbit looked shocked and got stunned by the scene he was seeing. And then we see Dawoon throwing a bizarre amount of dirt clods. The rabbit asked in shock, "How many dirt clods you have stored there?" Dawoon said in his mind, "Never underestimate me," and with all his power, he blocked the stream with the dirt clods. But because of the pressure, it burst right through the dirt mountain. Dawoon looked tensed because the stream was starting to come at its full power. Dawoon thinks the clods are rolling off. What if the shape was not round? Then he tries to change the shape of the dirt clod, and we see the rabbit is seeing Dawoon and he is just hoping Dawoon to die. Suddenly the stream bursts completely through the dirt mountain and submerges Dawoon again. But we see Dawoon has finally changed the shape of the dirt clod. Scene shifts. We see the rabbit completely amazed. Dawoon had blocked the stream with a brick design. We see Dawoon completely drenched and panting. And then he says to the rabbit, "From the time you have shown here, nothing is going well for me." The rabbit replied in anger, "If you are sick of the struggling, then just give up and die." Dawoon replied, "You don't even have a little bit of sympathy. How you say something to a person who just nearly died?" Inside, the rabbit is shocked because Dawoon blocked the stream with just dirt manipulation, and the rabbit thinks this is bad for him because if Dawoon made it outside, the rabbit will be dead. Then Dawoon calls the rabbit and says to him that he has found something amazing. Dawoon looks relieved and his eyes sparkle seeing at something. The rabbit screams, "A pond." Dawoon replies that he won't have to worry about dying from dehydration. The rabbit says, "What if the water is poisonous and you end up getting diarrhea or stomachache?" Dawoon leans towards the pond and says, "Purification." The water starts to glow. Dawoon then teases the rabbit and says, "I can drink this water now, right?" The rabbit enraged thought, "I hate this glitch bastard." Dawoon thinks something while seeing the pond. Then he stood up. The rabbit asked Dawoon what he was going to do this time. Dawoon, with a charming "or," replied, "Don't you think that I need an amazing interior piece to go with it?" Then Dawoon opened his inventory and started to place brick on the side of the pond. The rabbit thought he made a brick of wall with a blink of an eye. He had gotten better after blocking the stream. Then the rabbit asked Dawoon again what he was making now. Dawoon replied, "I am giving some final touches to the interior." Then screamed, "A lion fountain," but the rabbit said it looks more like a cat struck by lightning. Then Dawoon put his hand inside the mouth of the lion and said, "Dirt manipulation." He removed all the dirt from the mouth of the lion and connected it to the pond. The rabbit looked disgusted and said, "You can also remove dirt freely. What a load of unnecessary details." Dawoon replied, "This is not unnecessary. This is a very scientific design." He showed the metal skewer to the rabbit and said it is connected to the point from where stream burst. Aside from helping the water pressure to prevent the stream from bursting again, it also helps to circulate the water regularly without clouding. This is what I call a perfect design. The rabbit looked frustrated and replied, "Good for you." But Dawoon said, "Don't I deserve an achievement for this?" Suddenly in front of Dawoon a golden light appeared. It was written, "New achievement unlocked." Dawoon and the rabbit looked confused by the golden light. Both screamed and the rabbit said, "There's no way you will get an achievement for this. As a reward, fish will live in Dawoon's pond." Small fishes appeared in the pond. Dawoon looked fascinated by the fishes, but the rabbit got frustrated. Dawoon, with a sparkle in his eyes, said, "Now I won't ever starve to death." But the rabbit replied, "Just die." With a bit of acting, Dawoon said God was moved by my struggles and decided to help me. Scene shifts. We see smoke coming out of the trap. Then we see Dawoon making barbecue, and the rabbit is sitting on the side. The rabbit, with an unbothered face, said, "I cannot believe you are grilling meat, using the sacred property of the dungeon." Dawoon replied, "Why haven't I thought this before?" The rabbit said, "Because you are an idiot." Dawoon, with a tempted face, said, "I am happy that I at least know now." Dawoon offered the rabbit some meat. The rabbit looked confused and asked what he meant. Dawoon replied, "You are the one who suggested this idea. You should also try this." The rabbit explained the other players would prepare food like this if they had access to fire, and the fire also adds a smoky flavor to the meat. Dawoon asked the rabbit why he was still hanging around. The rabbit replied in anger, "I'll leave once I see you die." Dawoon thanked the rabbit and said, "I was getting sick eating the same thing." Then he offered a grilled meat to the rabbit and said, "You are the one who came up with this idea, so you deserve a reward." The rabbit, with a bland face, looked towards the grilled meat and starts to drool seeing the tasty food. Suddenly the rabbit rejects the meat and said, "I wouldn't eat that cheap-looking food." Something struck in Dawoon's mind, and he said, "I forgot that rabbits are herbivores, how stupid of me." The rabbit replied, "I can eat meat because I am a special rabbit. I am just choosing not to." Then Dawoon started to tease the rabbit and said, "There's no grass around here to give you." The rabbit gets furious and said, "Do you think I can't kill you? I am going to cut your head." Scene shifts. We see the fire is still there, but Dawoon is in deep sleep and the rabbit is looking toward him and says he is the luckiest person in the entire history of the dungeon. Then Dawoon starts to mumble in his dreams and says, "No Sungwoo no." The rabbit got freaked thinking about Dawoon's dream. Then he started to float in the air, and with a spooky face, said, "You fell asleep like a baby." Then a crackling sound came from the fireplace, and the rabbit said, "You don't even realize what you have done." The monsters in the dungeon are always starving and ask Dawoon, "Will you be able to survive again in a hole with no escape route?" Then we see outside the dungeon where multiple red eyes are staring toward the hole. Then the rabbit with sarcasm says, "I hope you will survive." But we see Dawoon, who is in a deep sleep and cannot hear a single word the rabbit is saying. We see an animal leg. And then we see the owner of the leg, who is a wild monster. He is standing in front of Dawoon, but Dawoon is completely lost in his dreams. Then the monster came close to Dawoon and started sniffing him. Then the monster came a bit closer, and suddenly Dawoon punched the monster in the face. Then he woke up and was still sleepy. He turned towards the monster. Then Dawoon's sleep vanished and his eyes popped out and he screamed, "A one-horned boar." Dawoon trembled and said, "Am I dreaming?" Suddenly the one-horned boar attacked Dawoon and destroyed the place with the attack. Dawoon realized he was not dreaming. Then Dawoon tried to establish a conversation with the boar and said, "Can you understand what I am saying like the rabbit?" Then he apologized to the boar and said, "I hit you by mistake." But the boar didn't understand a single thing and dashed toward Dawoon. Then Dawoon entered his thoughts where Sungwoo was standing in front of the beast and said they had incredible strength, but their movement is predictable and their intelligence is low. And when the boar dashed towards Sungwoo, he jumped to the side. Dawoon came back to the world and thought if it was Sungwoo, he could have dodged the boar, but would I be able to do it? He doubted his ability and thought, I am just a crafter without any combat skills. Then he got an idea and thought, what if I just make the boar stop for a while? He gathered dirt in his hand with his powers. Then in an instant, he made a wall in front of him and stepped on the top of the wall. But the boar destroyed the wall instantly. The boar destroyed the mud wall like a sheet of paper. Dawoon was surprised by the boar's strength and thought I was able to block the underground stream with the wall easily. He destroyed it. Dawoon was terrified because of the strength and strong build of the boar and thought if I made a single mistake, I would die. Dawoon opened his inventory and got an idea. He started to stack multiple layers of brick to stop the boar. He even challenged the boar to break the wall, even if he did not know how strong his head was. The boar with all his might dashed towards the wall, but Da Woon was pretty confident that the wall would not break. The horn of the boar entered the mud wall. Da Woon was shocked seeing the boar break through the wall with ease. He jumped from the wall to save his life. Da Woon thought, if it goes like this, I will die, and he understood he had underestimated the boar's strength. The boar was destroying everything around him. Da Woon realized at this rate the underground stream was going to burst open again. He saw his house getting destroyed in front of him and felt helpless, and thought about how much effort it took him to make the house. Da Woon in rage opened his inventory and screamed, I won't let you get away with this. I have no choice but to use this special move I have been working on. The boar glares at Da Woon with his frightening red eyes. Then we see Da Woon taking out a big mud boulder from his inventory. The boar starts trembling in fear when he sees Da Woon taking out the big boulder. Then Da Woon asks, have you heard of the spirit bomb? And screams no one has ever survived this one combo. Here Da Woon's special dirt bomb. He took the dirt bomb in his hands to throw. And suddenly Da Woon realized something was not right, and an explosion happened. We see the explosion happened because Da Woon had thrown the bomb in front of him. Then he saw the remains of the bomb with shock, and started to laugh to avoid the situation. The boar got even angrier seeing Da Woon's failed attack, and started to chase him. Da Woon realized he didn't have enough strength to throw the big rock. He started to make walls under him to get some distance between him and the boar, but the boar was dashing towards him with great speed. Suddenly Da Woon got shaken to his core, and before he knew, he hit the ground very hard, and started to bleed. We see the boar had destroyed the wall which Da Woon was standing, and Da Woon is now on the floor, bleeding from his mouth. The boar's attack had triggered a catastrophic chain reaction, causing the cave to crumble. Da Woon thought it wasn't even a direct hit, but it damaged me pretty badly, and said, stupid pig, there's no way for me to get past it, and started to think about his next move. He thought, I am going to die at this rate. There must be a way out. Then suddenly, he started to think if he captured the boar, he could have a barbecue party. Then, with a psychopath's face, he says, I will finally be able to taste the oily meat I always dreamed of. And with a flash, he made a brick wall in front of him, and screamed, come to me, my grilled pork belly. The boar dashed towards the wall, but Da Woon was spamming dirt manipulation on the other side. The boar broke the wall easily and entered the next side. But to his surprise, there was a small hole, and Da Woon was standing on the other wall he made behind it. Da Woon with a confident face said, I thought I should tire you, so you can't keep charging at me. The boar fell into the small hole that Da Woon made, and glared at Da Woon with his red eyes. Da Woon opened his inventory and said to the boar, how dare you glare at me? Think you are not aware of the situation you are in. Then Da Woon said, I am pissed. Do you have any idea how long it took me to make this place, and how are you going to make it up? Can you rebuild this house? The boar got extremely frightened seeing Da Woon in such calm and angry mood. Then, with a psychotic face, Da Woon glared at the boar and said, you will have to repay me with your body. You have made me super angry. Then Da Woon turned and said bye to the boar, then started to throw multiple mudstones from his inventory. The rabbit saw the boar getting destroyed by Da Woon, and with an extremely pale and feared face asked himself, what did he just see? Then said to himself, is he really the same pathetic crafter? How someone can defeat a boar using a useless skill like dirt manipulation? Then the rabbit declared Da Woon really dangerous. We were told that the average skill level of the survivors who cleared stage 1 is 3, and the skills will level up the more you use them, and those who meet certain qualifications will receive a skill. The survivor must improve their skill because they are highly effective in combat and are needed to move on the next stage. However, risking your life in combat to raise your skill level was easier said than done. Scene shifts. The rabbit looks depressed, and the rabbit now understands why Da Woon's skills are leveling so fast, because he uses them every time he has a chance. Then we see Da Woon smiling while seeing his first hunter boar. Then Da Woon sees the rabbit and invites him to see the boar he hunted. The rabbit is furious seeing Da Woon happy and thinks he is like a bug in the dungeon system. Scene shifts. Da Woon sharpens his knife using a stone and gets ready to cut the boar. Da Woon remembers the key factor for butchering meat is speed. Then, with the fine cut, he said to himself, the meat will spoil in just 2 hours if it's left out at room temperature. Dawoon thinks he can get rid of the enteritis bacteria with his purification skill, but spoil meat tastes horrible. Dawoon carefully separated the lean meat from the fat and put the tendon aside. He completed butchering the meat and screamed great and asked the rabbit, "How's it?" Suddenly, the rabbit started to yell at Dawoon saying, "Who the hell are you talking to?" Dawoon replied, "Why don't you try living here alone? It gets really boring here if I don't talk." The rabbit agreed with Dawoon. Both of them got awkward and didn't say anything for some time and looked away. Scene shifts. Dawoon hits a mud wall with the boar's horn and made a pan and said it's much lighter now. Then, with excitement, he puts the pan to the test immediately. He sees the tendon and says, "It's dry, I can use this as a rope." The rabbit thought what kind of life he had before the dungeon. Then, with excitement, Dawoon screamed, "Best of all is fat. Oil is a big necessity." Then Dawoon thought he could use the oil to reignite all the torches that were put out because of the commotion. He put the oil into the pan and enjoyed the aroma, then put the oil into a glass jar and said the oil smells much richer than yesterday. The rabbit replied with a frustrated face, "The oil will just lure more monsters to your place." Dawoon, with a charming smile, replied, "I have already thought about that." Then Dawoon took some steps away from the fireplace and opened his inventory and took a skewer from it. Then Dawoon put the skewer into the ground. Seeing all this, the rabbit looked confused. Then Dawoon explained to the rabbit why he was doing so. With a grin in his face, he said, "You told me last time, the moment you fall into this trap you're out. So, if I can use this trap, I can hunt boars." He told the rabbit he stored the skewer since they are useful, but the new ones appear whenever the dungeon resets. Listening to all this made the rabbit furious. Then Dawoon showed the trap to the rabbit and said, "This looks exactly the same as the original." "Right." The rabbit replied that the boar, "Not that stupid. Why would they come when it's so obviously a trap?" But Dawoon just ignored what the rabbit said and said to the rabbit that he would be able to eat meat every day. The rabbit tried to stop Dawoon from blabbering, but suddenly something took their attention. The rabbit got stunned seeing the thing. It was a boar who was staring at them. The rabbit tried to stop the boar from jumping and said, "It's a trap, don't jump into this place." But the boar jumped right into the trap. A big dust cloud rose from the ground, stunning both the rabbit and Dawoon. Dawoon tried to see what happened to the boar through the dust cloud and saw the boar was dead. Dawoon looked extremely happy. On the other hand, the rabbit looked disappointed and screamed, "You dumb animal, why would you jump into this hole?" Dawoon, with a charm in his eyes and water in his mouth, said, "I won't have to worry about food for the time being." The rabbit got pissed by Dawoon's expressions. Scene shifts. We see a boar sniffing around a pit. Then he peeks inside and saw there was a barbecue. The boar jumps into the pit and was not able to move. We see Dawoon is lying in front of the boar. Then he said, "This guy's bigger than the one from yesterday." We see Dawoon preparing food for himself. He grabs a piece of meat with his chopsticks and just lifts the meat, and suddenly everything starts to shake. Dawoon gives a glance and said, "Why are you falling so often? Do you really have no intelligence? This is starting to happen so often that it doesn't make me as happy as before. Could you guys fall once a day? It's getting annoying." Then we see another boar had fallen for Dawoon's trap, and Dawoon says to the dead boar that, "You guys taste so good, at this rate you boars are going to make me fat." Suddenly a golden ore appeared in front of Dawoon. Scene shifts. We see Seungwoo holding two swords covered in blood, saying, "It's finally over. This time I almost kicked the bucket." Then the archer and other party members arrives and asks Seungwoo if he is alright. Seungwoo replied, "I am fine," and asked about them. But we saw the archer in complete shock. He replied, "Seungwoo, we are okay, but what's all this?" Then he screamed, "Oh my god, just how many boars is that? Don't tell me you killed all of them by yourself." Seungwoo replied, "It was a close call, but I didn't get any serious injury," and asked, "How did it go on your side, Hoyle?" Hoyle replied, "We were fine. I've got a lot of people on my side, and I am sorry we couldn't come to help you. We got separated in the middle." Seungwoo, with a smile on his face, said, "It's alright, I got a reward for this." Then he opened his achievement panel and said, it looks like I've killed a total of 100 boars so far, including the one from today, so as the reward I got a new skill. Everyone sees his Sungwoo new achievement. Then Hoyle said, wow, I didn't know there was a skill like that. Sungwoo replies, I know, it's just a level 1 skill though. Then Hoyle read about the skill from the panel and says it says that the energy of the one-horned boar will exude from your body, but there are some restrictions. It has an activation time of 10 seconds and a cool down time of 100 seconds. And it says that your physical skills will temporarily double, which means your strength and health will increase. Then, with a stunned face, Hoyle said to Sungwoo, if what's written on the screen is true, then it's a powerful skill. Sungwoo, you are becoming a monster day by day. Sungwoo, with a confused face, replied, a monster. Hoyle, I am not sure if that's a compliment. Then the archer with a charm in his eyes said, but it's true, on top of being a technician, you have gained monstrous powers. That's incredible. You are likely an already powerful tiger that grew wings. But you are really amazing, Sungwoo. I am so glad that you are on our side. Then Hoyle said, I am pretty sure that the cooldown period will decrease and the duration will increase as the skill level up, and of course, the doubling effect should extend your activation time more. Then everyone flattered Sungwoo a bit more, but Sungwoo replied, guys, you are giving me too many credits. It's embarrassing. Suddenly Sungwoo heard some voices from the mountains and said, we should get back to the cave. Then the archer with a sad face said, what a waste. I bet we'd have a lot of meat if we butchered them. Then another guy from the party said, I don't remember the last time we ate meat because all those monsters in the dungeon are poisonous. They want us to starve to death. There's a lack of food and too many monsters. How do they expect us to keep fighting? Then the archer said, if only Da-woon was here, he could have purified those boars. Hoyle got stunned as if Jinsu had said a taboo word. Then Hoyle screamed Jinsu to make him realize what he is saying. To make it up, Jinsu said, I didn't think I'd miss Da-woon this much. He was just a cook in our group, right, Sungwoo? Sungwoo, with a depressed face, said, just a cook. Is that really what you think? The goal of this game is not fighting to win, but to survive. In that sense, combat seems like the most distinguishable and appropriate thing to do. Your goals are clear and you get rewarded without fail every time you achieve them. But what about all the times we couldn't fight? Then Sungwoo remembers how Da-woon would help everyone and gave him food to eat after their battles, and said Da-woon fought for our sake alone in his own ways during those dangerous times. He was the strongest out of all of us. Hoyle replied, you are right, Da-woon even made this whetstone for me. Without this, I'd be wielding a dull axe and would have died ages ago. Jinsu apologized to Sungwoo and said, I am sorry, Sungwoo. I am just sad that Da-woon is not with us anymore. I won't ever say about him again. Then Sungwoo, with a smile, said, let's all head back now. Then a member of the party said, let's hurry back home and eat some potatoes. Another party member replied, wasn't Da-woon also the one who first found the potatoes for us? Scene shifts. We see a barbecue. Then we see Da-woon, who was making the barbecue. Then Da-woon, with a charm in his eyes, said, this is the good life. The rabbit got pissed seeing Da-woon enjoying and screamed, shut up. I told you to stop talking to yourself. Are you possessed by a ghost? You can't even keep your mouth shut for 1 second? Da-woon, with the unbothered face, replied, looks like you don't know anything about what makes mukbang fun. The reaction is very important when you eat something tasty. Then, with some seriousness, Da-woon asked the rabbit, by the way, do you know this? The rabbit with a frustrated face asked what, but Da-woon tried to change the topic. Then the rabbit with more curiosity said to Da-woon, just say it. I don't know what you are thinking, but it'll definitely be something I know. Then, with a spooky face, Da-woon said, then, did you know that you can't eat this boar meat because there's poison in it? The rabbit with a spooked out face replied, of course I knew. Then Da-woon said, really? Then I wonder if you also know this. Then Da-woon whispered in the rabbit's ears, if you purify this meat, the poison will vanish and leave behind a slightly bitter taste. The rabbit listened to Da-woon's teasing with a blank stare. Da-woon completed his sentence and said the meat tasted good, even without salt. The rabbit got furious and screamed, who cares about that? But Da-woon burst out laughing and said, Isn't that amazing? Seeing Da Woon laughing at him, the rabbit said, I am going to kill you. I swear, I will kill you one day. Suddenly a dirt cloud rose behind Da Woon, flinching both of the. Then Da Woon turned behind and said another one jumped into the trap. This made the rabbit more furious, and he screamed, honestly, you stupid pigs, isn't it about time you stop jumping down here? Then Da Woon replied, while removing those skewer, I think their memories were set every time the game reset. Around a 2-3 of these boars jump down here every time the dungeon resets. Then the rabbit replied, you seriously piss me off. Suddenly, the rabbit's eyes grew wide as saucers, and he started sweating and screamed, what are you doing? Then we see Da Woon lifting the boar that had fallen into the trap. The rabbit screamed in surprise, why did you suddenly become stronger? Is it because you kept eating meat? Da Woon replied, no, it's just a skill, and asked the rabbit to flip the meat for him so it doesn't get burned. The rabbit was so shocked that he fell to the ground and asked Da Woon what skill. Da Woon, while carrying the boar, replied, I think it was called energy of the one-horned boar. Anyway, I will be back soon. The rabbit's eyes went blank, and he started to stutter and thought energy of the one-horned boar. What did that lunatic just say? Is he referring to the one-horned boar Slayer achievement? This useless crafter got that skill? No way. Da Woon dumped the boar and thought that he should do some construction on the entrance, and after he returned, he saw the rabbit completely depressed. He freaked out at the rabbit's appearance and asked, why are you so down? The rabbit with blank eyes asked Da Woon, by any chance, the skill you mentioned at the one-horned boar Slayer achievement? Da Woon replied, yeah it is. The rabbit in shock said, but that skill's only rewarded when you kill 100 boars by yourself. Da Woon replied, I guess I caught a total of 100 boars with the trap, but the rabbit replied, no. Wait, something's off. Then he said to Da Woon, you have been here for a couple of resets now. Da Woon replied, so, what's wrong? Then the rabbit explained, when the dungeon resets, the count also resets. There are only 40 boars in this dungeon. Da Woon replied with a smile, so I guess the count keeps accumulating even after the dungeon resets, and asked the rabbit, was that not supposed to happen? The rabbit jumped in anger and said, of course, that is not supposed to happen, you freaking glitch bastard. Da Woon, with an innocent looking face, replied, does that mean I can also accumulate other monsters that I catch? And thought, if I catch 100 of a different monsters, will I get another achievement? That will probably be hard to do without a trap. The rabbit replied in anger, don't ask me fatty, and teased Da Woon by saying you had eaten so many pigs that you actually turned into one. Da Woon asked the rabbit, is there a weight gain system here? The rabbit replied, I don't know, you pig. Scene shifts. We see the bright sun and the lush green grasses and trees of the dungeon. In one of the trees we see there is a squirrel-like creature who is eating bones. The bone that the creature was eating fell from his small hands, and he said, Fuku. He dashed towards the bone. Fuku stopped in front of a hole where his bone had fallen. He peeked into the hole with fear. Scene shifts. We see a small hole in the wall of a cave. Suddenly Fuku arrived from the small hole and saw multiple torches there. He started to hunt the bone that had fallen, but he reached a room and got shocked. Suddenly, he noticed the bone piece and grabbed it with his mouth. He was just about to leave the cave, but saw something that lit his eyes. There was a collection of different bones, and because of the shock, the small bone piece fell from his hands. Fuku got extremely happy, and a golden aura covered him. Scene shifts. We see Fuku getting out of the hole and climbing the tree with a piece of bone in his mouth. Again, he goes into the hole. He did this thing multiple times for days, smuggling the bones outside his hideout. He popped from the hole in the cave again, and started to go to the place where the bones were kept. Fuku saw a trail of bones. He ate all the bone pieces one by one in sequence, and when he was eating the last piece of the trail, he saw multiple bones served in a plate. He jumped for the bowl of bones, but we see Da Woon lying under the plate. Fuku grabs a piece from the plate, and was amazed by the quality of the bone. He took a bite from the bone, and was instantly teleported to heaven with a deep breath. He started to eat the bones instantly. He was munching the bones, but suddenly he flinched. When he saw on his right, he saw Da Woon's face and got freaked. He thought Da Woon was a monster and started to leave, but the bones were calling for him, so he blocked his ears and started to shake his head. He was in a dilemma and his eyes blanked, and the next moment, he was eating the bones again. He started to eat the bones faster so he could leave, but we see Da Woon had waken up and was seeing him with adorable looking eyes. Dawoon remembers that Fuku was stealing his bones from several months, but instead of being mad, he was happy that he finally found another living being. Since Fuku is very cautious, Dawoon was wondering how he should get close to him. Luckily for Dawoon, Fuku loves to eat bones. Back to the present, Dawoon thought the only thing left is to befriend him. Both were staring at each other and Dawoon was trying to predict whether he would run or stay. But Fuku loved the bones so much that he started to eat them faster but didn't run. Dawoon was mesmerized by Fuku's adorableness. Dawoon tried to reach Fuku with his hands and thought, "Let me pet you just this once. I don't care if it is for a second, so let me pet you." He patted Fuku's head with his hand. Instead of running, Fuku was enjoying Dawoon's head pat and got relaxed. Suddenly a golden light appeared in front of Dawoon. Dawoon got another achievement for taming the ground squirrel. Dawoon was surprised and thought, "Are this usually granted this often? I never got a single one when I was with my party." Dawoon was a bit disappointed seeing the weird ground squirrel achievement and said, "I don't know if that's worthy enough to be an achievement, but I am happy we have become friends." Dawoon asked the squirrel, "Should I call you Fuku?" The squirrel instantly replied by saying Fuku, and Dawoon got a bit shocked seeing the squirrel reply. Dawoon, with confusion, asked Fuku if he could understand him and suddenly realized that this was the reward for the achievement. Dawoon tried to use his power and asked Fuku to sit. Fuku sat on Dawoon's hand like a baby. Dawoon got excited seeing Fuku respond and started to test his power more. After some time, Dawoon asked Fuku, "Could you show me how you came down here?" Fuku jumped from Dawoon's hand and started to go. Dawoon tried to ask Fuku where he was going and asked him, "Was that too hard to understand?" Fuku stops and looks at Dawoon with his cute eyes and was showing his hand towards the entrance. Dawoon realized that Fuku wants him to follow. Fuku brought Dawoon where he came from and Dawoon said, "You came from the side of passage number 4 and made the hole bigger by using his dirt manipulation so he could enter." Then Dawoon started following Fuku and thought, "I didn't know there was a tunnel like this. Maybe Fuku was able to find it because he is small." Dawoon remembered that he tried to dug out himself but was always blocked by the rock walls and was just about to give up. Suddenly, he was out of his thought because a beam of light struck Dawoon's face. Then Dawoon saw a tree root and thought, "So that's where Fuku came from." Dawoon got tears in his eyes because he saw the sunlight after so many days. Fuku got confused seeing tears in Dawoon's eye. Dawoon said to himself, "If I climb this route, I will finally be able to get out." He started to run towards the light thinking his long life underground was finally over. Dawoon started to climb the tree root. He reached the root and grabbed it. A beam of light rushed towards Dawoon's face. When Dawoon opened his eyes, he was finally able to see the upper region after so many days of living underground. Dawoon screamed with happiness, so this is what it looked like outside. Dawoon started to cry, screaming, "The sky is so blue, the clouds are so white, and the grass is so green and luscious." He calmed himself and said this may be an ordinary view, but it looks so beautiful. Suddenly a black figure grabbed the sheep from its neck. It was a wolf. Then Dawoon realizes there are many wolves standing in the back, and says survival of the fittest, that's how nature works. The wolf started to come towards Dawoon with bloodthirst. Dawoon's face went blank, and he said these wolves are notorious for being merciless. "Damn it, don't tell me I made it out here, just to die on the spot." The wolf dashed towards Dawoon with their jaws open. Dawoon tried to protect his head with his hand, but to his surprise, the wolf didn't attack Dawoon. They ignored him and attacked the sheep. Dawoon, with a bit relaxed mood, said, "I am glad the sheep were there to distract them." Then Dawoon said to Fuku, "This place is too dangerous. Do you know another path, by any chance?" Suddenly Dawoon felt a death stare at his back. He turned his head with fear and said, "I guess there was one left." Then he calmed himself and thought it's going to turn its attention to the sheep. But the wolf was staring right at Dawoon. The wolf attacked Dawoon with his jaws, but Dawoon dodged it by running inside the cave and said, "Do not run at me all of a sudden, you freaking pig." The wolf got stuck at the entrance of the pit. Dawoon teased the wolf by saying, "It's too narrow for you, so give up." But the wolf took it personally and destroyed the area around it and entered the cave. Then he started to chase Da-woon again. Da-woon, while running, said, "I take back what I just said. You are not a pig. So stop chasing me." Then Da-woon thought the tunnel was narrow, so it would be hard to avoid the wolf if it attacked, so he opened his inventory and thought, "It's just one wolf, I will finish this here. Once and for all, I will block him here. Compared to the one-horned boar, it's much weaker." Suddenly the wolf attacked Da-woon with high speed. Even before Da-woon realizes what happened, he started to bleed from his left side, and thought, "I didn't expect it to be this fast. This is bad." Luckily the wolf missed this time, but it might kill me with its next attack. Will I be able to run away? Is there any way to escape? I won't be able to hold out for long when it moves so fast. I need to end this quickly. Suddenly Da-woon remembers something, and said, "That's right, I can use that. I don't have any other option anyway." The wolf jumped at Da-woon to attack, but suddenly Da-woon's right arm was covered in a blue aura, and with all his might Da-woon attacked the wolf and screamed, "Energy of the one-horned boar." The wolf got flown by Da-woon's new power. Da-woon was shocked to see his new powers. He screamed with happiness it worked. This skill is no joke. Da-woon started to think that he gained basic physical abilities by living a rough life underground. He could tell that now, because he used it in combat. And it's a pretty amazing skill. The wolf was staring at Da-woon with his hunter's eyes. Da-woon was a bit shocked and thought that attack did some damage for sure. But I couldn't knock that wolf down with one hit. The biggest drawback of this skill is the activation time. Da-woon dashed towards the wolf because the time was getting over. He was heading straight towards the wolf, but as he was about to reach him, he changed his position towards the wolf's stomach. Then he collected all his power in his fist and punched him with all his power. Da-woon was a bit shocked and said, "Die already," and started to throw a series of punches with his remaining power. The attack was so powerful that smoke clouds began to release from the entrance of the pit. Da-woon was tired and panting, and only 3 seconds were left for the skill to get deactivated. But to his surprise, the wolf jumped straight at Da-woon to attack. Da-woon jumped in the air to dodge the wolf's claw. Da-woon opened his inventory midair, took a skewer from it, and said, "I said already die." The wolf was growling at Da-woon. Then with all his might Da-woon hit the wolf on his neck. But suddenly the wolf attacked Da-woon, and Da-woon was flown towards the wall. Then a dust cloud rose from Da-woon's collision. The wolf was screaming from the pain. Suddenly Da-woon stood and said, "You stupid. Why are you so full of energy? Nothing's going as I planned. We see the skill activation time has ended and a cooldown of 100 seconds is activated." The wolf stared at Da-woon with his ferocious eyes. Da-woon started to think, "I have figured out the wolf's movement patterns. It pounces up on its front paws and attacks quickly. That's its most dangerous attack. As for its other attacks, I have a solution. I just need a few seconds." Da-woon left his thinking world and said, "Hi buddy, can we call a truce for 90 seconds? Or is that too much to ask?" The wolf ignored Da-woon's words and left to attack. Da-woon, with a confident mood, said, "Let's get this over with. There's not much time, this is my only chance." Then, with a straight face, he said, "You should have kept using your front paws to attack." Da-woon puts his hand inside the wolf's mouth and said, "Dirt cloud." A blue flash appeared in the wolf's mouth. Scene shifts. We see a golden light coming out from the cave. The rabbit arrives and says, "I am surprised. He is not grilling meat today. I have a bad feeling about this. Hello anybody there? What could have taken his attention away from meat? He is not doing something stupid again. Bone armor. Did you make that yourself?" Da-woon was a bit surprised to see the rabbit suddenly and said, "Oh, you came, I made this in a day. Does not it look great? There's been a lot of dangerous stuff happening lately, so I wanted to protect myself." The rabbit replied, "Why don't you just go and die then? Wait a meadow wolves. What the hell? Did you find a way out to the surface?" Da-woon, with an unbothered face, replied, "Yeah, I did." The rabbit with sarcasm asked Da-woon, "Then what are you still doing here?" "Ha ha ha, I knew it. This place is the most comfortable for you. Why don't you just live here for the rest of your life?" The rabbit with fear in his eyes said, if I am not mistaken, you also got yourself a cute pet. You won't feel lonely anymore. Isn't it great? Dawoon with a serious face replied, don't make me laugh. I am getting out of here no matter what, but I can't leave this place without any preparation. I am only alive because I was lucky this time. The rabbit with a confident face replied, that's why I am telling you to just live here quietly. Dawoon replied, don't worry, I am planning to use this place as a hideout for the time being. The rabbit started to sweat and said, for the time being. Dawoon with a confident face said, now that I fully know what to expect up there, I will take my time to prepare myself. The rabbit begged Dawoon to give up and die. But Dawoon replied, your reactions only motivated me. I will do my best. Scene shifts. We see Dawoon covered in the blue aura sweating and screaming the energy of the one-horned boar. With all his power, Dawoon lifts a self-made dumbbell. Then Dawoon remembers and says, the more I grow my physical abilities, the stronger the doubling effect will be. I still need to hone it before I use it in an actual fight. But because I have been using this skill often, it's leveled up now. My activation time is 20 seconds and cooldown time is 90 seconds. Then Dawoon thinks wolves usually wander around in packs. I was lucky I only had to face one last time. Even if I tried to take them one by one, there is no guarantee it will work. I need to become stronger. Then we see Dawoon's base activation time is increased by 20 seconds and its cooldown is decreased by 20 seconds. Then Dawoon hits his punching bag made out of boar with all his power. Then, with a grin in his face, Dawoon said, I won't run anymore.